Dear friends, here we go again with Liu Ryan. This is the final chapter of a thrilling story, with likes surpassing the population of an entire city. For those of you reading while in the bathroom, adjust your posture and savor it slowly. I've loved Liu Ryan for 10 years. And finally, I waited until she married her white moonlight. At the wedding ceremony, my eyes filled with tears of excitement as I watched them get married. I was very happy, really even happier than their own mothers. But during the wedding ceremony, a familiar mechanical male voice suddenly echoed, "Alipay has received 10 billion yuan. Everyone immediately turned to look at me. On the stage, the bride Liu Ryan and the groom Itu Makoto also turned their attention to the sound from my phone. They had just exchanged rings, and the officiant had announced the successful completion of the wedding ceremony. Liu Ryan's brows furrowed slightly, as if she couldn't understand what I was doing. Itu Makoto had a smile on his lips, as if mocking my childish foolishness. But I really didn't do anything. I looked around, and my heart skipped a beat. I lowered my head to look at the phone clutched in my hand. There was a notification about a change in my Alipay account. My fingertips trembled slightly as I opened Alipay. In my Yubao account, the countless zeros like bubbles made me instantly lightheaded. I shouted out loud and stood up abruptly. This sudden move immediately caused dissatisfaction. Jibo da, what are you doing? Today is Itu Makoto and Liu Ryan's wedding. Do you really want to cause trouble until no one is happy? Yeah, I really don't understand what you're thinking. You actually have the nerve to attend the wedding. Aren't you ashamed of yourself? Itu Makoto's friends were all speaking up in his defense. Liu Ryan also looked at me deeply, her gaze cold and stern, a silent warning hidden within. She suppressed her anger and spoke with displeasure. Ji Boda, stop making a scene. Realizing I was still at the wedding, I snapped out of my overwhelming joy. Looking around, all I saw were eyes filled with disdain and ridicule, but I couldn't control the corners of my mouth from curling up. 10 billion. I've got 10 billion. Ha ha ha. I'm really sorry. On such a joyous occasion, look at me. What am I doing? Seriously, it's too much. I got a bit too excited. It's a happy day, and since the ceremony is over, I won't disturb you any longer. I wish the bride and groom a long and happy marriage, and may you have children soon. Sorry. I'll take my leave now. I held my phone, staring intently at the beautiful string of zeros on the screen, my heart blooming with joy, not caring how others saw me. With unsteady steps, I left the wedding scene. I vaguely heard someone say I might be crazy. Rarely seen such a thing, 10 billion falling from the sky. Let me see you stay calm. After that, in my senior year of high school, a few mischievous kids purposely locked me in the bathroom. In the dead of winter, wrapped in a cotton coat soaked with cold water. I was freezing to the point of almost passing out, and in my daze, something that called itself a system wanted to bind with me. It said it could save me from my predicament, and if I completed the tasks it gave me, I could earn 10 billion. At the time, I was so cold that I was nearly delirious. At that moment, who cared about 10 billion or not? I immediately agreed to bind with the system. Only later did I learn that the task was to be Liu Ryan's loyal follower. And when she married her white moonlight, Itu Makoto, the task would be considered complete, and the system would reward me with 10 billion. Looking at the beautiful and gentle Liu Ryan, I thought liking someone like her wasn't so bad. I dove headfirst into it until 6 months ago, when I got into a car accident and was hospitalized. I called her countless times, but no one answered. I lay in the hospital, uncared for, only to see in Itu Makoto's social media the two of them snuggling together in Norway, watching the aurora. Later, when she returned to the country with Itu Makoto, because I had an argument with him, her white moonlight shed a couple of tears, and she publicly announced that she was dumping me. They swiftly got engaged and married, while I chased her for 5 years, stayed by her side for 5 years. 10 years in total, yet I never stood a chance against Itu Makoto. Looking at my Alipay balance of 761, I snapped out of my memories. Who cares about sadness when I've got 10 billion now? I was excited for half the night, and only managed to fall asleep after much effort. The familiar ringtone of my phone successfully woke me up. I jolted awake, quickly sat up, and grabbed my phone. The glaringly large characters spelling out Liu Ryan filled the screen. I didn't want to answer, but my hand moved faster than my brain. After all these years of being her loyal follower, my body had developed a reflex. I silently scorned myself. Yet I was also curious why, on her wedding night, instead of being with Itu Makoto, she was calling me. The call connected, and for the first time, I didn't speak first. The other side was silent as well. Just as I was about to lose patience and hang up, Liu Ryan's low voice came through. Jibo-da. She called my name after 10 years of being together. I could hear the fatigue and anger in her voice. Why did you call me tonight? I initially planned to hang up right away. But thinking about the 10 billion I had just received, I feared something might go wrong, so I held my temper. Her voice paused slightly, then coldly said, I told you before. We should part ways amicably. Why did you embarrass Itu Makoto in public today? I was taken aback, frowning. What are you talking about? Good grief, I could hardly believe my ears. Itu Makoto stole my girlfriend of 5 years and had the nerve to send me an invitation, insisting I attend. He was the one who sought to make things difficult for me. Now I'm the one being accused of embarrassing him. What a joke. All these years, it's me who owes you, whatever you want. I'll try my best to make it up to you. But you shouldn't have embarrassed Itu Makoto at the wedding. How did I embarrass him? Just as the wedding ceremony ended, you ran off like a madman after you left. The whole crowd started talking about how he stole your girlfriend. Itu Makoto is under a lot of stress right now. I told you, the wedding was very important to him. Did you even consider his feelings? I couldn't help but laugh out loud. Itu Makoto really is a delicate little flower. I tightened my grip on the phone and took a deep breath. I tried to keep my tone calm. First of all, it wasn't my idea to attend your wedding. It was Itu Makoto who begged me to go. Back then, you even came with him to ask me, saying that your wedding wouldn't be complete without me. If anyone was embarrassed, it was him trying to embarrass me. In the end, I just left early. I didn't do anything at all. There was a pause on the other end of the line, and Liu Ryan's tone grew increasingly irritated. Itu Makoto just wanted your blessing. After the wedding, he intended to apologize to you personally. But you made it difficult for him in front of everyone. Apologize? I couldn't hold back a cold laugh. Liu Ryan, I know you favor Itu Makoto, but you're taking your bias way too far. Do you really believe someone like Itu Makoto would apologize to me? Don't speak about Itu Makoto like that. I've told you everything was my decision. It has nothing to do with Itu Makoto. If you want to blame someone, blame me. Besides, I've already told you, I was only trying things out with you. It's my fault for not being able to forget Itu Makoto. I took a deep breath, amazed at her boundless favoritism. So, what else do you want to say? Surely you don't expect me to apologize to Itu Makoto? Yes. Her voice on the other end was firm and decisive. You should apologize to Itu Makoto. You ruined our wedding. My fingertips tightened as I reminded myself not to get angry. The money had already been deposited. Enduring one more night wasn't a big deal. There was no need to create additional trouble at this critical moment. Itu Makoto has depression. His emotions are very unstable, and he can't take any more blows. Liu Ryan added, yes, Itu Makoto has depression, beautiful, delicate, and charming. Meanwhile, I'm the one who deserves to be mistreated and deceived, right? Jibo-da? Her voice paused slightly on the other end. Alright, no need to say more. Is Itu Makoto beside you? Put me on speaker, I'll apologize. I heard the rustling sound of the phone being adjusted, and after a moment, Itu Makoto's tearful voice came through. Jibo-da, I don't blame you. It's just that Liu Ryan. I felt like vomiting. I quickly cut him off. Stop pretending, it's disgusting. I got a bit emotional today. I sincerely apologize for disrupting your wedding. I'm truly sorry. Here and now, I, Jibo Da, wish you and Liu Ryan a long and lasting marriage, a century of happiness. And may you have two children within 3 years. You two scumbags deserve each other. You're locked together forever. Goodbye, or rather, never see you again. I hung up the phone, standing with my hands on my hips, breathing heavily. I was so angry it hurt my liver. I had chased Liu Ryan for 5 years, been with her for another 5 years, a total of 10 years. Yet she treated my love as a bargaining chip, hurting me repeatedly for the sake of Itu Makoto. This was the last time, truly the last time. Liu Ryan called again, but I decisively turned off my phone. Whoever wants her can have her. The money's in my account. I'm done serving her. I'm busy. The kind of busy that comes with being wealthy. It's hard to imagine. The next morning, I went to the office and ordered the most expensive milk tea for all my colleagues. I secretly bought the latest Huawei phones and watches for a few close colleagues. Finally, I picked up my resignation letter and slammed it down on the boss's desk. Wishing you prosperous business, I'm quitting. One simple, decisive sentence. The boss looked at me like I was crazy. He finally squeezed out a question. What? Did you win the lottery? I raised an eyebrow, something like that. Amidst the shocked and confused stares of the entire office, I walked out with long strides. I've got 10 billion work. Never again in this lifetime. After resigning, I headed straight to the real estate agency. At first, seeing that I was just a young man, they weren't particularly enthusiastic. But when they found out I wanted to buy houses immediately, their attitude did a complete 180. I picked out the most pleasing agent, a pretty girl named Ziliu. And when I told her I wanted to buy 10 houses, her eyes widened in shock. I stroked my chin. Just 10 houses, is that really expensive? Ziliu awkwardly tugged at the corners of her lips, giving me a thumbs up. Not at all, not at all. It's just a small grand scheme of things. In Heishi, decent houses cost about 10 million each. 10 of them would come to around 1 billion. While browsing, I also took a liking to villas in the suburbs. All in all, I spent just under 2 billion. I've been incredibly busy these past few days, but fortunately, Ziliu was diligent and reliable. The paperwork was completed quickly, and all the houses were rented out. Because the locations were excellent, I'm now earning hundreds of thousands in rental income each month. The remaining 8 billion sat in my Alipay account, earning me tens of thousands in interest every day. For the first time in my life, I realized just how easy it was to spend money. Looking at the hot property deeds in my hands, and the Alipay balance that was longer than my face, 10 years of gloom vanished in an instant. Money really can solve 99% of life's problems. This time, I fully believed it after handling the property matters. I contacted the best travel agency in town. As a child, I always dreamed of traveling the world. The paperwork for going abroad was quickly taken care of, and the tickets were purchased. After several days of not really checking my phone, I opened WeChat. It showed 99 plus unread messages, most of which were from people asking about my mental state. After all, everyone who knew me was aware of the love-hate entanglement between Liu Ryan, Itu Makoto, and me. Given my behavior at Liu Ryan's wedding, many thought I had gone mad. I glanced at the messages, and my eyes landed on an invitation to a gathering from our class monitor. Having grown up in Heishi, I had quite a few friends here. With my world tour ahead, and no set date for my return, it was time for a proper farewell. I wasn't sure if the class monitor had intentionally leaked the news, but a lot of people showed up at the gathering. Some were close friends, while others were not. Most had schadenfreude written all over their faces, clearly curious to see just how miserable this loyal follower abandoned by Liu Ryan had become. Liu Ryan and Itu Makoto also came. The newlyweds, a talented man and a beautiful woman, looked well matched. Among these people, Liu Ryan was doing quite well. A few years after graduation, she had started her own business and achieved some success. Many gathered around them, and I couldn't tell if it was my imagination. But ever since I walked in, Liu Ryan's gaze had been on me. E2 Makoto held her arm, clinging to her side. As if afraid she might run away, I glanced at them, feeling neither joy nor sorrow. Soon, I would say a complete goodbye to everything here. Someone suggested playing truth or dare. Everyone sat in a circle, whether by coincidence or intention. The first person chosen by luck was me. Without hesitation, I chose dare. No need to think about it. Those who were eager for drama would definitely ask about me, Liu Ryan, and E2 Makoto. I had no desire to talk about that couple anymore. But I didn't expect that my dare would involve kissing one of the women present. Among the women here, over the past 10 years, I had almost no female friends besides Liu Ryan. As I hesitated, someone started to cheer. And someone even suggested that I might be too embarrassed to kiss in front of my ex. Liu Ryan seemed to notice my awkwardness, and she appeared to want to help me out of the situation. She suggested we switch to a different game, but E2 Makoto shot a venomous look my way, sending a shiver down my spine. Good grief, here we go again. He acted like I owed him money, even though Liu Ryan was already married to him. What more did he want? And besides, I hadn't even said anything. No one objected to Liu Ryan's suggestion, but I didn't want to owe him any favors. If we're playing, then let's play. I'm not someone who can't handle a game. Just then, a beautiful woman with a cross necklace walked in to serve drinks. I steeled myself, wrapped my arm around her neck, and kissed her, much to the crowd's cheers and shouts. Well, I must say, the taste of this woman wasn't bad at all. Out of the corner of my eye, I noticed. It seemed like I saw Liu Ryan frowning with a dark expression. Liu Ryan was angry, though he still maintained a blank face. Having spent so many years with him, I knew he was angry, very angry. It was strange. Why was he so mad? I wouldn't be so self-centered to think he was upset about me kissing someone else. If he really cared about me even a little, he wouldn't have abandoned me without hesitation in his heart. There was only ever room for his white moonlight, E2 Makoto. In the early days of Liu Ryan's business, life wasn't easy. I stayed with him in a basement, eating instant noodles. I stayed up all night with him during overtime, drank with clients until I had stomach ulcers. Whether or not there was a so-called task, I was always wholeheartedly devoted to him. But he treated me like something he could summon at will and discard when done. When E2 Makoto was abroad all those years, a single phone call from him, and Liu Ryan would travel across the world to see him, no matter what. Whether it was Valentine's Day, my birthday, or when I was on the brink of death after a car accident, as long as E2 Makoto spoke, I was always the one left behind. But now, none of that matters anymore. I have 10 billion everything in this world, except life and death, is no longer a worrying for me. The game ended, and after finishing my drink, I said goodbye to a few friends, picked up my bag, and walked out without a trace of regret. It was raining heavily outside, and it was hard to find a cab in the rain. I silently decided that after this trip, I would get myself a car. The rideshare hadn't arrived yet, but Liu Ryan came out. He looked at me with heavy, brooding eyes, as if some strange emotions were bubbling up inside him. It's hard to get a car in this weather. I'll take you home. I glanced at him and smiled. No need. President Liu, stay here and take care of your husband. Liu Ryan sighed. Jibo da. It's my fault, but you can't just let yourself go because of it. Hearing this, I frowned. Let myself go? Just because I kissed a bartender? Liu Ryan, when did your standards get so low? When we were still together and you were entangled with E2 Makoto, did you ever think about self-respect? Jibo Dao. He choked up, as if my words had hit him hard. If you need money, just ask me. I'll give it to you. Don't degrade yourself. Give me money? Ha, we've already broken up. Aren't you afraid E2 Makoto will get jealous? I sneered. Now that we've broken up, you suddenly become generous. All these years, it's not that I didn't have feelings for you. It's just E2 Makoto ... I don't even know how to explain it. Boda, stay with me. I'll do the life you want. I couldn't help but laugh out loud. Do you even hear yourself right now? Liu Ryan, I've been with you for 10 years. But don't think for a second that I can't live without you. I looked at her, and suddenly, this woman seemed utterly unfamiliar to me. I've got 10 billion, for crying out loud. Who still cares about you? Liu Ryan's face shifted. She seemed a bit surprised that I would say something like that. It turns out you really are trying to seduce Liu Ryan. We're already married. Why do you keep haunting us? Liu Ryan already broke up with you. What exactly do you want? E2 Makoto ran out, his face slightly twisted. Ever since marrying Liu Ryan, every time he saw me, it was like he was a volcano ready to erupt. I looked at this pair and could only find it amusing. I don't want anything, but E2 Makoto, you better keep an eye on your woman. Someone just offered to give me money to spend. TSK, newlyweds, and you're already playing it so loose. E2 Makoto was furious and tried to come at me, but Liu Ryan held him back. His brows were tightly furrowed, and he stared at me intensely. Just then, my car arrived. I couldn't be bothered with them anymore. I opened the car door and got in. I let out a long breath and told the driver to take me to the airport. I couldn't stay in this godforsaken place another second. The journey began. I booked with the best travel agency in town. I arranged the most luxurious and personalized solo trip. A private tour guide was at my service throughout the entire trip. I went to Mauritius to see the ocean. I went to Hokkaido to see the cherry blossoms, rode boats in the water city of Venice, dived at the Great Barrier Reef, and visited Provence to see the lavender fields. I went wherever I wanted, regardless of time, season, or distance. My travels were free and indulgent. After all, I had plenty of money. I traveled for almost a year. Until my best friend from high school sent me a message saying he was getting married next month. Coincidentally, I was starting to feel a bit tired of traveling, so I decided to see the Eiffel Tower in Paris before heading back. On the streets of Paris, a souvenir shop caught my eye with a strangely shaped and incredibly ugly ceramic bowl. How should I put it? The bowl was so ugly that it was impossible to look away. I said I wanted to buy it, and the foreign shopkeeper looked at me with surprise. He asked me to wait a moment and went to find someone. I never expected the creator of the golden bowl to be in the shop, and even more unexpectedly, the artist of this ugly bowl turned out to be someone I knew. What a coincidence! We met again. Brother Shinyachu leaned against the display cabinet, waving at me with a bright smile. It was him during that game of truth or dare. He was the one I kissed, feeling guilty afterward. I transferred 10,000 yuan to the bar manager for him. After that, there was nothing more. We hadn't seen each other in a long time, and just when I was about to forget about him and that incident, I unexpectedly ran into him in France. Even more absurd, half a month later, we woke up in the same bed. I decided to end my trip early and bought a ticket to fly back home. Why did I run away? Was Shen Yachu ugly? Not at all. In fact, he was very beautiful. The kind of beauty that could captivate you at first glance. A pure and innocent younger man with an older sister vibe. Was he poor? Probably not. Although I didn't know why he was working as a bartender. It didn't seem like someone struggling financially could live so freely in France, spending his days molding and painting those incredibly ugly creations. He was passionate, free-spirited, uniquely beautiful, and most importantly, he seemed to have some interest in me as well. Ever since we crossed that line, I spent an entire night thinking about it without coming to any conclusion. I'm so wealthy now. Why would I still want to find a woman to drain my energy? Hadn't the pain Liu Ryan caused me been enough to wake me up from my romantic delusions? So after much deliberation, I left 10,000 yuan behind, packed my bags, and ran. As soon as the plane landed, I turned on my long-unused domestic phone number, and a flood of messages came in, making my palm buzz with discomfort. Most were from unknown numbers, but one number stood out. Every day, it sent a message asking where I was. I glanced at it, feeling puzzled. Wenzi Liu from the real estate agency called. "Boss, you're finally back. I had a bunch of properties that needed managing." So Ziliu had become my full-time property manager. I asked him what was going on. "It's that Spring River property. President Liu hired a nanny to watch over it 24/7. They won't even let anyone in. It's impossible to show the house to potential tenants." Spring River was the very property that Liu Ryan had given me as compensation. A 2-bedroom, 1-living-room apartment, about 80 square meters. I didn't want to have any further ties with Liu Ryan. I asked Ziliu to list the property as a second-hand sale, but a year has passed, and it still hasn't sold, with Liu Ryan constantly causing trouble. I was traveling abroad, too lazy to deal with it, so I didn't contact him, letting it drag on until now. A property worth a few million. To me, it's neither here nor there. Thinking about how I followed Liu Ryan around for so many years, and now he's causing problems even when giving me some compensation, I felt a bit of dissatisfaction after thinking it over. I took a cab straight to Spring River. By the time I arrived, it was almost dark. I used the old password to open the door, and was hit by the strong smell of alcohol. Someone seemed to be slumped over the table in the living room from the back. It looked like Liu Ryan. The person inside also heard the sound of the door opening and slowly lifted their head. Sure enough, it was Liu Ryan. His tired expression immediately cleared the moment he saw me. "Ji Bo Dao." I took a step back, using my suitcase to keep some distance between us, cautiously eyeing him, wondering what this sudden joy was all about. "Liu Ryan, what are you doing here?" He walked towards me with a smile, seemingly oblivious to my reluctance. His stubbly beard and the cold hardness of his face had softened somewhat in his disheveled state. "This past year, where have you been? I've been looking for you everywhere. Where I go is none of your business. Why were you looking for me?" I stared at him, displeased. "Didn't you say this house was mine? What did you change your mind and want to take it back?" Aside from that reason, I couldn't think of why he would be staying here. His company was thriving. A house worth a few million, surely you're not to me, right? He shook his head, his face a bit pale, looking somewhat pitiful as he asked me, "Are you really going to sell this place?" "Yes, why can't I? This place holds 5 years of our memories. Can you really bear to sell it?" I frowned. "What nonsense are you talking about? Memories? What memories? Didn't you already throw everything we had into the trash when you announced our breakup and moved out of here? You were so afraid I'd cling to you, you left without a second thought. You even sent your assistant to pack up everything. A lot of the things we bought together right in front of me were either thrown out or smashed. This house doesn't hold any memories anymore." Liu Ryan tried to explain further, but Itu Makoto's angry voice interrupted. "So it's you, Jibo Da. Why? Why do you keep ruining my relationship with Liu Ryan? We're already married. Don't you know that?" His voice was loud, and the elderly woman passing by in the hallway stopped to look at us. I frowned, looking at Itu Makoto as if he were a madman. My scalp tingled a bit, fearing he might actually try to bite me, say something. "What do I have to do for you to leave Liu Ryan and me alone? I beg you, I've already missed out on many years with Liu Ryan. I can't lose him again. Please don't come after Liu Ryan anymore, okay?" Itu Makoto's voice grew more desperate, as if I had truly become the homewrecker. I pulled out my phone. I dialed the police. "Hello, 110? Someone has illegally entered my home, please send an officer. The Spring River property had already been transferred to me by Liu Ryan, so I was the rightful owner. Liu Ryan trespassing was a fact. Given the complicated relationship between the three of us, it was difficult to hold Liu Ryan accountable specifically, so the police could only advise us to try mediation. Itu Makoto started crying and making a scene. I just wanted to get it over with, so I signed the mediation agreement, headache and all. By the time I left the police station, it was already midnight. My brother came to pick me up. Liu Ryan was holding the still crying Itu Makoto, too busy to pay attention to anything else, seeing that I was about to leave. He wanted to come forward to say something, but Itu Makoto clung tightly to his sleeve. He looked at me, his gaze so intense it was frightening. I glanced at them, feeling nothing but annoyance. My love for Liu Ryan had completely vanished when he repeatedly hurt me for Itu Makoto. Now, Liu Ryan was nothing to me, not even an ordinary old friend. On the way back, my good brother told me about everything that had happened between Liu Ryan and Itu Makoto over the past year. I had thought that the two had reconciled and were living a loving life, but their affection didn't last 3 months after the wedding. They had a huge fight, and Itu Makoto ended up slitting his wrists and landing in the emergency room. The emergency doctor happened to be a friend of theirs, so Itu Makoto's wrist slitting quickly spread throughout their social circle. Itu Makoto became known for his dramatics, threatening suicide every few days, jumping off buildings, burning charcoal, even hanging himself. Yet somehow, he never managed to actually succeed. But every time, he caused an enormous commotion. I heard that Liu Ryan's company lost several deals because of his antics. Oh, by the way, after you left, Liu Ryan came looking for me several times, asking if I knew where you went. Do you think he got with Itu Makoto? Only to realize that he wasn't the white moonlight he imagined. And now he's starting to remember how good you were. TSK, what a scumbag. Maybe he's about to enter regret mode with you. That could be interesting to watch. My good brother spoke with great enthusiasm, but I just wanted to laugh. This mess was indeed more dramatic than I had imagined. But so what? When you have 10 billion, you realize that many things are just trivial. Liu Ryan and Itu Makoto had long become irrelevant to me, like passing clouds. I only wanted to live a good life now, but clearly, someone didn't want me to have that peace. I still decided to sell the Spring River property. A couple of days later, Ziliu called to say someone was willing to pay an extra 200,000 for the house. I thought, which fool would overpay like that? When I went to sign the contract, I found out it was Liu Ryan. I really didn't want to have any further entanglements with him. But then I figured, why turn down the money? So I handed over my documents to Ziliu and asked him to handle all the buying and selling procedures. Seeing that the paperwork was almost done, I grabbed my bag and prepared to leave, but when Liu Ryan saw I was about to go, he hurriedly chased after me, grabbing my arm. Jibo Da, I have something to say to you. I tried to pull away, but couldn't. I looked at him helplessly. Fine, what do you want to say? Go ahead, I'm listening. Where have you been this past year? I've been looking for you everywhere. Hold on, I made a timeout gesture towards him. If you're here to reminisce, there's no need. There's nothing left for us to talk about. Liu Ryan frowned slightly, as if making some kind of decision. He looked at me with a determined gaze and said, Jibo Da, let's start over. What did you say? I rubbed my ear. You might not believe this, but after you left, I realized I'm in love with you, Jibo Da, truly. When you disappeared this past year, I missed you so much it drove me crazy. Liu Ryan's straightforward words left me momentarily speechless. I never expected that the woman who had been so cold to me for 10 years would say something like that. But it's too late. Your love is nothing compared to my 10 billion. Money has made me see things clearly. I pushed his hand away, stepping back, glaring at him coldly. When I was with you, you told me your heart belonged to Itu Makoto. You dumped me without hesitation for him. And now you want to start over with me? Do you really think I'm your pet that you can summon and dismiss at will? That's not what I mean. I really want to start over with you. Enough. Do you think you can just start over whenever you want? We're done, completely done. Once the paperwork for this house is finished, all I ask is that you leave my world for good. Ji-bo-da. He looked at me with pain in his eyes, and in the next second, a familiar scream rang out. T2 Makoto had arrived. Ji-bo-da. It's you again. I'm going to kill you. I'm going to kill you. You're the one who... He shouted as he charged at me, looking completely deranged. It turned out my good brother was right. Itu Makoto really seemed to have some screws loose. He must have installed a tracker on Liu Ryan. Otherwise, how could he have found us so quickly? Remembering how Itu Makoto was screaming his head off last night, I felt a chill run down my spine. After briefing Zi Liu on what to do next, I hailed a cab and left. It wasn't that I was afraid to confront Itu Makoto, but there was no point in wasting time with a rabid dog. But the more I tried to avoid him, the more Itu Makoto seemed to think I was easy to bully. Itu Makoto was a somewhat famous internet celebrity with millions of followers. He publicly cried online, accusing me of seducing Liu Ryan, claiming that I was after his money, and labeling me as a homewrecker. His twisted version of events instantly sparked public outrage, and it wasn't long before people started doxing me. They even targeted my good brother. My past as Liu Ryan's loyal follower was also exposed by well-meaning informants online, complete with photos and evidence, along with a slew of witnesses. Even the day I sold the house and raised the price by 200,000 was spun into a story about me extorting money from Liu Ryan. Zhang Yuan called me, asking what we should do. The public pressure was overwhelming. I moved out of my good brother's place and checked into a hotel. I'm fine. Don't worry about me. Itu Makoto won't be able to keep this up for long. Focus on your wedding. I'll make sure to give you a big red envelope later. My good brother sighed in relief and joined me in cursing out Itu Makoto and Liu Ryan for their shamelessness. But honestly, I didn't really care. To be blunt, I have enough money to last several lifetimes. Why would I care about my reputation? Though I didn't mind. I wasn't about to let Itu Makoto get away with it either. If he wanted to make my life difficult, I wasn't going to let him have it easy. He was trying to force me out of Heishi, but I wasn't going to play along. I picked up the phone I used before and started taking screenshots of the chat logs. As the public outcry continued to grow, I received countless harassing phone calls. With one click, I reported them all. I took screenshots of the malicious, harassment, and defamatory messages and sent them to the police to file a case. Over the next few days, Itu Makoto kept posting accusations about me being a homewrecker online. Seeing that the time was ripe, I uploaded the screenshots I had prepared directly to the internet. Screenshots showed all the sweet talk Itu Makoto sent me while I was still with Liu Ryan, as well as their social media posts from when they secretly went to Norway to see the aurora. At the same time, I posted photos of myself bedridden after the car accident, with a bit of timeline organization. Even an idiot could see who the real homewrecker was. Sure enough, even though I didn't say anything, it wasn't long before people began to realize the truth. Soon after, someone came forward with proof that Itu Makoto had abandoned Liu Ryan to go abroad because he was marrying an overseas tycoon I had only pursued Liu Ryan after Itu Makoto had left. I had stood by Liu Ryan for 10 years, rain or shine. But in the end, when his white moonlight returned to the country, I was the one who got discarded. After this analysis came out, many people began to sympathize with me. They saw me as someone deeply in love and felt pity for me. Then someone dug into my background, revealing that I was just an orphan, claiming that I clung to Liu Ryan only because I wanted his money. This statement quickly garnered a lot of likes. At this point, an ID named Agent Liu stepped in. He posted over a dozen property deeds and said, "My brother G owns over a dozen properties in the heart of Heishi. I'm his full-time property manager. And you say my brother G is after Liu Ryan's money? Are you out of your mind?" A flood of exclamation points followed. Someone went to verify this with the real estate agency, and from there, my title changed from homewrecker to be condemned to wealthy landlord in need of a sugar baby. E2 Makoto tried to argue online, claiming that my screenshots were fabricated. But even if they were, my properties were real. No one would believe that someone worth billions would become a homewrecker for a woman. Then a photo of E2 Makoto from high school, smoking and drinking, surfaced, showing that the now seemingly upright E2 Makoto used to dress like a rebellious troublemaker. There were even rumors that E2 Makoto had mental issues and was suspected of drug use. Netizens felt deceived, and E2 Makoto quickly became the subject of scorn, trending on social media for all the wrong reasons. He lost hundreds of thousands of followers overnight. Liu Ryan called me many times, but I only answered once. He asked me why I never told him about the bullying I faced in high school. I laughed and replied, "What difference would it have made? Would you have believed me? In your heart, I'm probably not even worth a single strand of E2 Makoto's hair." Liu Ryan, please stop contacting me. I'm truly fed up with you and your husband. To completely sever ties with them, I changed my number and left Heishi once again. Before leaving, I attended my good brother's wedding. I discreetly slipped him a red envelope with $1,000,000 inside. He was so excited he wanted to make me his godfather. I waved it off, saying there was no need. I continued to plan my next destination. Comparing domestic and international options, I still felt that the environment in China was better. I glanced at some flight tickets and headed straight to Yunnan. As soon as I arrived in Yunnan, I was captivated by its breathtaking scenery. Just then, an ad for a farm for sale landed in my hands. Happy and prosperous farm. With a grand gesture, I bought it. Originally, I bought the farm just for vacations, to raise a few rabbits and relax. But before the previous owner left, he left behind dozens of cows and the workers. The workers were all local people, making a living by working on the farm. Seeing their earnest and hopeful eyes, I couldn't bring myself to say no. So I continued to employ them to take care of the cows. I didn't have any experience in farming, so I told the workers, "Take care of the remaining cows as you see fit. If we make a profit, whoever manages the cows gets half of the earnings. If we lose money, we'll sell the cows and split the money among everyone before parting ways." With that one offhand remark, the workers were motivated, and 2 years later, the number of cows I owned just kept growing and growing. The big cows gave birth to calves. The calves grew into big cows, and before I knew it, I had hundreds of cows. In addition to the cows, there were also flocks of sheep and pigs. Managing it all became overwhelming, so I hired someone specifically to manage the farm's operations. To my surprise, this manager turned out to be a genius in operations. First, he convinced me to buy the surrounding land, and then he kept expanding the business. In less than 2 years, I became a well-known livestock magnate in the area. Before I knew it, I had achieved financial independence through beef and lamb. Watching my account grow by hundreds of thousands every day, I stroked my chin and fell into silence. How is it that the more I spend, the more money I make? My good brother had a chubby baby boy, so I airlifted to cows to him. While chatting on the phone, he brought up Liu Ryan and E2 Makoto. After the online scandal broke, E2 Makoto's image as a righteous male god collapsed, and Liu Ryan wanted to divorce him. But E2 Makoto refused, and they fought every day. Eventually, Liu Ryan stopped coming home altogether. But E2 Makoto wouldn't let him get away with it, and he started causing trouble at his company every day, ruining many deals. In the end, Liu Ryan's company couldn't survive the downturn. At the beginning of the year, he sold the company. Under the weight of all these setbacks, E2 Makoto became increasingly unhinged, and eventually, He was committed to a psychiatric hospital for treatment. Liu Ryan never managed to divorce him. Hearing about the fate of these two, I held a warm cup of tea, lying in my rocking chair, feeling a mix of emotions I couldn't quite name before I had time to reflect. The man himself, Liu Ryan, suddenly showed up at my farm. In just 2 short years, Liu Ryan had lost the confidence and vigor he once had. He was dressed in simple casual clothes, his gaze slightly hesitant. When he saw me, he immediately walked over with a burning intensity in his eyes. "How did you find this place?" I asked, surprised. He explained, "I went to see your good brother the day before yesterday. I overheard him talking to you on the phone." I sighed. Having known him for so long, I couldn't just kick him out. So I brewed a pot of herbal tea and asked him what he wanted. Liu Ryan's gaze lingered on my face, filled with a strange mix of stubbornness and pain. "These past 2 years, have you been well?" I shook my head and laughed. "Just say what you came to say. There's nothing left for us to rekindle. I sold my company. For 20 million, I nodded slightly indifferent. "I heard. It was wrong of me before. But I don't know what happened. When you left Heishi that year, I missed you so much it nearly drove me mad. That's when I realized the person I loved was you. It's always been you since high school. I've always liked you. I don't even know how I ended up with Itu Makoto. Jibo da. Can we start over?" His words left me dumbfounded. Looking at his earnest and eager expression, I couldn't help but want to laugh. I pointed towards the cattle pen in the distance. "You came all this way. Might as well take a look and pick a cow. I'll have it slaughtered and sent to you." "Jibo da." He tried to speak again, but I cut him off. "Liu Ryan, if you're still not thinking straight, there's a river just ahead. I suggest you go wash your face. I'm not in the business of collecting junk, and you're not gold. But brother, you sure made it hard for me to find you." Shinyachu, with an older sister's demeanor, carrying an easel on his back, his lips red, teeth white, with a mischievous smile that could melt hearts. Before I left France, I hadn't given him any contact information. How did he find me again? He raised an eyebrow and smiled. "Sis made it to the trending searches in China. Finding you wasn't hard. Thanks to Itu Makoto, I became a bit of a celebrity myself." "So this is your ex-sister-in-law?" Shinyachu pointed at Liu Ryan, asking innocently. I was at a loss for words, not sure how to respond. Liu Ryan then asked who Shinyachu was. "Well, that was a good question. First time meeting, we kissed. Second time, we didn't take long to get to the next level." What exactly was my relationship with Shinyachu? I hadn't figured out how to phrase it. But Shinyachu pulled out a photo. In the picture, I was asleep while Shinyachu held me, sneaking a kiss on my cheek. The photo was brimming with an intense sense of intimacy. Seeing the photo, my heart skipped a beat. Liu Ryan couldn't believe it, asking what was going on. "What do you mean? What's going on? Can't you tell, ex-sister-in-law? My brother and I are already in that kind of relationship." Shinyachu said it so plainly that my face turned slightly red, facing Liu Ryan's look of disbelief mixed with accusation. I suddenly felt indifferent. "You can get married, but I can't date?" Liu Ryan's face was full of pain. As he stepped forward, trying to grab my arm, Shinyachu blocked him, smiling as she said, "I've made myself clear, yet you still want to cling on? That's just shameless. It's just a breakup, no need to make it ugly." Liu Ryan looked embarrassed for a moment, seeing my indifference. He left, clearly hurt. After he left, I looked at Shinyachu. My heart started pounding. What was this beautiful woman planning now? Shinyachu looked at me with mischievous intent. Her gaze was like bindweed wrapping around me, making my scalp tingle. "Brother, you've done everything with me. And now you're not planning to take responsibility?" I stiffened my neck, and before I could think, my mouth started moving. "But I paid for it." Shinyachu narrowed her eyes at this. "Brother, do you even know how much I'm worth?" I honestly shook my head. It wasn't until my good brother, who had a crush on her, accidentally sent me a picture of their group's heir. that I realized I had gotten involved with someone I shouldn't have. Shen Yechu, the heir to the trillion-dollar Shen Group, had returned to China with much fanfare a month ago. Back at the bar, she wasn't there to serve drinks. She was there looking for someone holding a drink. Liu Ryan wasn't willing to give up at first, but just a few days after Shen Yechu arrived, he suddenly disappeared from my farm. Seeing the predatory look in Shen Yechu's eyes, I got scared as I was packing up to make another escape. Shen Yechu smiled and grabbed my collar. I can make someone disappear, and finding someone isn't hard either. Brother, do you really think you can run? Seems unlikely, I thought as I hesitated, and she said, stay with me for 2 years and I'll make you fall in love with me. If you don't fall in love with me, I'll give you 10 billion. Holy crap, another 10 billion. What can I say? This deal seems even more profitable than raising cattle, no losses, only gains. Seems like there's no reason to refuse.